All right, what's up, everybody? What's happening? It is Christopher Harris and Jessica Canty back with careers and conversations and all of that jazz. So excited for what's going to take place today. Y'all are in for an amazing conversation. Callings and careers is what we call it. And we've got all of our C's together here. This is Christ-centered career coaching conversations.
I like how you had counted it down.
Yeah, you got to count it down. Christ-centered career coaching conversations. Essentially, what we want you to know through our series of conversations is that you can be fully flourishing as a faith-filled follower of Christ, and also excel in your career. It doesn't have to be either or; it can be both and. And we're committed to leading in and having those kinds of incredible conversations. Jessica, it's been like a month since our last Callings and Careers. How you been?
Can you believe it? Time goes by so very quickly. I have been wonderful, and I just really appreciate this space because you're so right. We can serve Christ and serve in the workspace, and our ministry in the workspace is still serving Christ, whether it's behind a pulpit or behind a cubicle desk. We are still serving Him in everything that we do. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you have to do what Jessica and I are doing right now. We're in between lunch breaks, lunch breaking and meetings and Zooms and trainings and development. All those things, but we're committed. We've had people reach out and be like, hey, what's the next Callings and Careers? And we're like, yeah, we're coming. Give us a minute.
That means we could be touched with the infirmity and the feeling of others, that we know you're catching us on a lunch break or in between running your busy schedule, but we definitely want to make time for you. So we're hoping you make time for this good conversation we're going to have today.
Listen, it's going to be a humdinger. That's so country. Oh, that's so country. Humdinger. Where did I get that from? I have these country tendencies that just like ooze out of me every now and then.
Is it like hereditary? Are we coming from the country, you think? Is it like slipping in there?
I don't know. Because I don't know. I have no idea why those country tendencies ooze out of me, but it's all good. So we've talked about a number of things over the last few months in Callings and Careers, and today is probably going to be one of those conversations. It's probably going to be a little touchy, and probably going to really just touch on some nerves that are probably fresh for a lot of people. Jessica, there has been a number of documentaries and podcasts and conversations of challenges that churches have had. Anybody that's paying attention to the news will see where there have been some churches and pastors that have been called to question for integrity issues, character issues, leadership issues, family issues, all those kinds of things. And so we want to sort of just maybe unpack a couple of those things really quickly from a career perspective, because I think it's important for us as we talk about callings and careers to leverage ourselves in these conversations. So those of you that are watching, we're streaming this live right now on multiple platforms. And so those of you that are watching live, feel free to offer comments and dialogue in the chats, whatever platform you're watching this on. And then if you're watching this later on demand, feel free to leave a comment. You see Jessica and I's contact information there as well. And so we want to welcome and invite you to jump in and be a part of that. So Jessica, we've got just a short amount of time. What are we talking about today? Let's frame the conversation first there.
So this conversation, I think, is a long time coming. Like you said, there's documentaries out there. However, I think the documentaries about behavior in the pulpit only show what really we've probably seen when we went to church. And so it's just now that someone's got a camera and they're, following people about it. And so the question becomes, what are we doing in our roles to serve Christ in our careers? And so you sent this awesome article over to me, and between our brains united, I really thought about how do we cultivate that career credit score. And I think credit score is something that everyone gets, that we understand it. We were talking offline about purchasing a home. So if credit score is definitely a part of that conversation. But our credit score is our name.
Mm.
what we're known for, what our credibility is, whether or not we're going to do what we say we're going to do. And
Yeah.
so I think it's so poignant and so timely to talk about that and what we can do to build our know, like, and trust factor to increase our career credit score.
Yeah. So so I'm going to reference the article here in a moment, but I think even before I reference the article, I think it's important for people to know that there's a larger conversation that's at play today around who you trust, who you don't trust, around
Mm-hmm.
credibility. And someone said something a couple of days ago that I've been pondering over, that the key to success is consistency. Like when you think about just the simplicity of that, the key to success is simplicity. I'm sorry, the key to success is consistency. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, what are we being consistent with? Are we letting our yes be yes and our no be no?
Mm-hmm.
Are we showing up for meetings on time? Are we showing up? Like, are we showing up consistently? Are we regularly producing in excellence? Are we, um, if something happens and we drop the ball, are we acknowledging that we dropped the ball, or are we throwing shade at other people and pointing the finger like if such and such, like, no, are you owning it? Because all of that speaks to your credit score, your career credit
Mm-hmm.
score.
Mm-hmm.
And so this article, the title of it is called "As Pastoral Credibility Erodes, How Can We Respond?" And
Mm-hmm.
it talks about basically how God wants to essentially reshape our view of authority, and how people, like, we are in a position where we have to start making some different decisions if we want people to even listen to us. And here's a big one, Jessica: if we even want people to trust us. And I just, this is going to sound really, really straightforward, but I think that Christians just have to learn how to be good people.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have to learn how to be good people. Like,
That's a series in and of itself. Yeah. being Christian 101, be a good person. Like lesson one, be a good person. Like that's a
yeah,
series in and of itself. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
When I started my podcast, the Wisdom for Life Club, the Wisdom for Life podcast, um, I the very first episode was a gentleman that I invited on. He wrote a book, and I got to find the title of the book. I can't remember right now, but it was about how are Christians good people.
Mm.
And it was just a very sobering conversation where we were just challenged that I think sometimes we think because God is on our side that we can shortchange other areas, even professionally. And when you think about how much time people spend at work, the people at your job don't need to be surprised when you say you're a Christian.
You said this is gonna be a conversation to step on some toes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Coming out the gate, absolutely, absolutely. It should be
Yeah.
evident. There should be something that you exude that they say, okay, that makes sense. Oh, I understand that now. Not like who? Who would you say was Christian? You sure about that? It shouldn't be that way. It should be evident, and it doesn't have to be evident in because I've got a everything says WWJD, or I've got hymns playing in my cubicle, but I mean to people when I step outside my cubicle. Some
Mm-hmm.
contradictions there, but it definitely should be evident.
Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
jump into it. How does one create credibility and craft their
Mhm.
career credit score? How do they do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's 3 steps I want you to consider. And each of these steps, I want you to do it in order. And I know we're only going to speak for a brief amount of time, but this is something you want to press pause on, do the work, and then come back to the other steps,
Mm,
because this in and of itself, I think, could last you for the remainder of the year, depending on where you are in the answers. So
mm-hmm.
the first step you want to do, if you want to craft that career credit score, is to clean it up. That's the first one.
Good.
We want you to clean it up. And what does that look like?
Mm,
It's important for you to clean up your character.
mm,
Okay. You want to clean up your character. And your character is seen in your behavior and also your brand. So
yeah.
your behavior in the workspace, but also what you put out in the digital space as well.
Mm,
So you've got to do a cleanup. It's springtime. Maybe you're listening to this in the springtime as well. And people talk about spring cleaning. You've
Yeah.
got to get rid of what's no longer serving you in your behaviors or what's no longer in alignment with the career that you've chosen. So perhaps you were able to communicate with people in one way, but you want to be the pastor. That communication is going to shift and change
Yeah.
once you get into that position. Perhaps you were a supervisee and now you've been promoted. You're a supervisor. You've got
Yeah.
to clean up the way you communicate with people. You got to take an inventory about this new position. What am I currently doing that's in alignment with it? And what am I doing that's contrary? And you've got to do it in such a way that you're honest with yourself. So, this is how they hired me. So this is what they're going to get. You won't stay in the position very long. You're
Yep.
absolutely right. That's what they hired you for. But it might be because they didn't realize that this was what was underneath of it. And
Yeah.
so you really want to do an inventory. Look at your social media posts. What are you liking and clicking share and reposting on? Does that reflect the position you are currently in? Can someone pull that up and go back to 2012 and see a picture of you turning up on the weekend? And now you're saying you're professing Christ. I know
Right.
we're all human, but this is something you have to kind of think about your behavior even now, like when you were talking about what does it mean to be Christian, when people know, you may be able to quote Bible scriptures, but are you kind to people?
Mm-hmm.
Are you may give tithes and offerings every day, but are you taking a moment to recognize somebody is hurting? So really take your time to sit down and do an inventory, clean up your character and your digital presence, your behavior and your brand.
I think what's powerful about that is that it requires a sober self-assessment. Like you got to be willing to like take the hard look at yourself, and find out what's not working and
Yeah,
ask why is it not working. So why
yeah,
why do why am I the one that keeps running into problems with people? Why do I keep having this kind of friction?
mhm,
It's this notion that like you can change jobs, but if you don't change as a person, right, then you're going to keep encountering the same problems in different
mhm.
places. And you know what's interesting, Jessica? I think a lot of people lose themselves in this conversation because they think, well, if I take a hard look at myself and I change, how much do I change without losing who I am?
Mm,
And I think it's important for you to be comfortable in who you are while knowing where you're rough around the edges, right? Because
absolutely.
personality is an impactor on behavior, but behavior still has to have discipline.
Absolutely.
So you could be a loud person. You could be a loud person, but you got to have enough self-awareness to know you can't be loud everywhere all the time.
You can't be loud in the court building. Have a seat. Or like you can't be loud about, a challenge you had with your family when you're at the pulpit. You gotta decide how much volume you give to that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Or, like you mentioned cubicles earlier, like all of us have worked with that person in cubicle settings who has like no volume. Like no volume. Like your volume is always on 20. Like, can you give me a 5 today? No, I'm African American. Or no, I'm Puerto Rican, and that's just how we talk. No, you are choosing not to turn your volume down,
Yeah.
and then trying to
Yeah.
blame it on the culture. No, we're not going to do this for the culture. Turn that down, okay? Turn that down.
I'm taking that from you. Turn it down because I literally teach classes on professional etiquette. And that's something I have to tell people who make over six figures. Hey, listen, stop talking with the speakerphone on. Stop talking like these cubicles are going to capture the sound. They're not going to capture the sound. It floats over. So absolutely, it is a fine line to determine, what part of me needs to remain intact
Yeah,
and what part of me needs to shift and change. But the beautiful thing is that Christ says that all throughout the Bible that whatever we lose and we are persevering towards His calling and towards what He has for us, He's always going to give it back to us.
yeah,
So if you have to lose getting loud, know that He's going to speak softly to you. You're going to hear His voice. So
yeah.
if you have to give that up, know that He's going to give it back to you.
That's so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the first thing that a person needs to do if they're going to clean up or if they're going to get their credit score higher,
Mm-hmm,
their career credit score, really fast, having a high career credit score. Basically, I think what we're saying to people is that you're trusted, you have credibility, you're respected.
mm-hmm, Mhm. And
Now,
you're also
go ahead.
people will be flexible and adaptable with you with their areas that you may not be proficient in, or they may want to invest in you. Just like your own credit score, when they're looking, is it good, is it fair, is it poor? They're asking whether or not they want to take the investment of giving you money, or whether or not they should trust your word about you paying a bill on time. And so it's the very same thing with our career credit score. People need to know whether or not it's worth the investment, what you're going to do with the investment of their resources, and they really will look at this. Now, it's not, no one's going to give you a report that says, oh, you are a 700 or anything like that. However, you can begin to see that when you are going out for promotions and not getting it. These are some indicators that your career credit score is kind of low,
Yeah,
where it seems like people are going to meetings and not inviting you.
yeah,
Your career code might be kind of low, or you're just always in a struggle to try to find that next position. Those may be some indicators. And maybe that's a whole other conversation too, to kind of figure out where is your credit score and how do you know whether or not you need to improve it. Whole other session.
that's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, when you have a higher credit score financially, you have more and different options. So
Absolutely.
I think the bridge is easy there. That even in terms of your career credit score, you have more and better, bigger options as well when you have a
Mhm.
higher career credit score. All right, so number one, you got to clean it up. All right, what's number two?
Number two, you kind of alluded to, and I want to highlight it. Number two is to clear it out. So once
Mm,
you've cleaned it up, you looked at your brand, you looked at your behavior. Now it's a determination about what is it, where is it coming from?
mhm.
Because we can definitely clean something up, but it comes right back if we don't determine what's at the root of it. So
Yeah,
this is where the mental health professional side of my brain. I'm a clinical social worker, and in therapy, over and over again, I'm working with my clients to clear out what is no longer serving them, what is getting in the way of their version of success. So I highly suggest that you get the help that you need to determine what's at the root of it. I just taught a course on core beliefs, and you will be surprised how many people behave based on lessons they learned when they were 5 or 6 years old.
wow.
Well, I feel like people are going to abandon me. That's why you're clingy in a relationship. I feel like, no one sees my value. That's why I have to work twice as hard, and I have to work until I'm dead tired. So a lot of times, some of the behaviors that we display in the workspace is really because it's some core belief that somebody told us about who we are, some education we received, some experience we went through. But you've got to get help. So I'm biased. I'm going to say seek a therapist. But if you are going into the pulpit, you need to talk to somebody that's in the pulpit and ask, talk to your pastors, talk to somebody who's had their career around ministry and say, I keep seeing these behaviors pop up. Because we kind of
Mhm.
talked offline. Some of there's a lot of sexual sin going on in the church. You got to ask yourself why. Like, where is it coming from that you keep falling back into this same sin? Or you
Yeah,
keep, this is something that keeps getting put on blast, as my generation would say, or it keeps becoming public knowledge. It's because there's something going on underneath it.
yep,
So you
yep.
definitely want to clear that out, because if not, you keep tripping up over that thing, and no matter how many times you clean it up, it's still going to keep coming back. So you want to clear it out after you've cleaned it up.
Yeah, that's so good. I was sitting here, I was looking down because I was trying to find this article. Another friend of mine sent me an article, and it just talked about the danger of not having anybody in your life to tell you the truth. Um, that there literally and legitimately some people who don't have anyone to tell them the truth. And what's sad about that is that when you have nobody that is in your life to tell you the truth, you automatically assume that you're right. And so the danger of operating in a career where you're making decisions and doing things every day where you think you're right creates a level of arrogance that is just unmatched,
Mm-hmm.
right? A level of toxicity that is just unmatched. And we are unapologetic about having Christ-centered career coaching conversations. And the scripture says, and this applies in our careers, Jessica, that pride goes before destruction. There's like legit, like, let's talk about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people who legitimately would not listen to other people and literally destroyed their careers. Like this, I've seen people who have the potential to be C-suite people who
Mm-hmm.
literally end up working um, minimum wage hourly job, all because of pride, all because they were not willing to listen to someone else tell them the truth, that here's a blind spot. And here's the truth. Like when you're mature, you know you have a blind spot. Like everybody has a blind spot, which is why you need to do life with other people so that they can help you navigate your blind spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even when you're saying that pride piece, I want to call out the person who thinks, well, I'm not prideful. I want to talk to you too. It's prideful to be people pleasing too. So maybe you're not the person who's going out and boasting about how wonderful you are and ignoring advice, but it's prideful to be a people pleaser. Listen, I'm gonna raise my hand. You may be listening to this audio, but you can see it on the video. I'm raising my hand, so nobody else has to. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And at the root of it, we're talking about core beliefs. It's pride too, because I feel good when someone tells me I've done something good. But is it something that God told me to do? If I'm consistently thinking about what other people are telling me, I'm going to be exhausted because I keep trying to please other people. I'm going to be tapped out and burned out and have secondary traumatic stress because I'm consistently thinking about what other people think about me. That's still a pride issue too. So there's a spectrum of that pride. That pride looks like, can't nobody tell me anything, to I have to do everything that everyone tells me. It's still about a pride thing because it's about how you see who you are. And if you are that person in ministry, again, I'm not I've never served as a pastor, but I've been that person who is on 10 different ministries in church. And, I'm working on my next badge because I really want to make sure that people see me a certain way. That's about pride too. So you're either going to be that hourly wage worker when you could be in the C-suite, or you won't work at all because you're in the hospital bed because you're too tired. So I want to make sure that that person hears this too, that you've got to be able to clear it out too. Do you think that you're only significant or you only have value if you grind all day? Is that the only good day for you? Is if you're grinding all day, every day?
Yeah, that's so good. This is in some ways a discussion about balance in terms of our perspective, because we don't need to be a people pleaser, right? God has to deliver many people from being people pleasers. On the other end of that spectrum, you have some people who live their lives saying, I don't care what people say about me, and I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. And that mindset is just as dangerous and toxic and dysfunctional as the other of always being overwhelmed and consumed by people pleasing.
Absolutely.
I don't think we need to be consumed by what people think about us or say about us. I think we do need to be concerned about it. Right. And let me tell you why I say that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jessica. If people don't respect us, then it minimizes our credibility and our influence. And if we have no influence, can we really get the job done that we're called to do? Not just our job description, but also our job description from God. Like, that's the real question we've got to wrestle with.
Absolutely. And I definitely second that notion, because I like the idea of not consumed but concerned. Because no matter if you're an entrepreneur or you're an employee, whether you have a boss or you are a boss, somebody's opinion counts. So if I'm an entrepreneur,
somebody ought to tweet that. Somebody needs to tweet that. Somebody's opinion counts, no matter what space you're in.
Yeah. Because if I'm an entrepreneur, which I am, my client's opinion counts. If I'm an employee, which I serve in different capacities as an employee, then boss counts. So absolutely, somebody's opinion does count. We should be concerned and not consumed. I love it. That should be on the mug. Be concerned and not consumed.
Yeah. All right, y'all can't have it though. I'm gonna copyright it or trademark it before y'all take it. All right, so we're talking about crafting your career credit score. So first, Jessica, we said if you're going to craft a very good career credit score, the first thing you got to do is you got to clean it up. Second thing you got to do is you got to clear it out. What's the third and final thing?
The third and final thing we kind of hinted at, but here's where we want to highlight it, is to coach it up. You want to coach it up. And it really means to get guidance and to be humble. You want to get guidance and get humble. So once you've done your own preliminary work of going in there and cleaning it up, taking down pictures, taking down posts, making sure you get up 15 minutes earlier so you can be on time. You've done that work. And now you've gotten the work of assessing your behavior through the lens of where is this coming from? Why do I keep doing it? We'll clear it out. Now you've got to coach it up. Now that I've done that work, how do I sustain it? How do I make sure that this is something I can continue to walk in. And a lot of times that's where people fall off. Now, of course, I'm gonna get in my clinical side. When we're working with people who may be using substances, they can do great work of determining they have a problem. Great work with quitting cold turkey. But where they trip up is that there's no maintenance plan. They don't know how to replace the behavior, and they don't know what to do if I fall. So if you are that person who's identified the challenge, okay, I keep getting passed up for promotions. I keep training my replacement. No matter how many times I go to the pastor and say I'm ready to preach, he tells me to sit down. There's some work to do. Once you've done that advice, you've got to ask yourself, who can help me to maintain this? So for an entrepreneur, you may want to hire somebody to be your marketing person.
Yeah.
For those who are going into ministry, I can't stress it enough to talk to the pastor, but also talk to people who are walking that walk with you. Like, what are they doing as being a wife of a minister or the minister? Like, how do I follow up with all this hard work I've done? How do I maintain that? You don't want to go through the process of losing 60 pounds and, making sure that you look better and you feel better. And then 6 months later, you've gained 70 pounds. Why does that happen for people? Because they don't have that maintenance piece. So you want to put in place someone who can help you to maintain the progress that you've made.
Yeah. In the past, you've talked about, having sort of a personal board of directors. And I think it's important for people to even think through that when you talk about coaching it up, because all of us need a personal board of directors. I think I wrote this down as you were talking, because you mentioned, going to social media and taking certain posts down or deleting certain posts and saying, hey, okay, that's not who I am anymore. I need to take that down so that people don't have this certain reputation or impression of me. The in-person, so that's digital. That's your social media reputation. The in-person version, real life version of taking the post down is going to somebody and apologizing.
Okay. I like that. Absolutely.
Right? Hey, and here's where I believe the role of the Holy Spirit comes in the life of a believer in corporate setting and in business settings, because we are guided by a different standard. And the standard that we are guided by will have you go back to somebody, even when you didn't mean to harm them or mean to offend them. And the Holy Spirit will even have you to apologize, not just sometimes for what you say, but even how and where you may have said something. Right? Now, this is real talk, right? Because this is Christ-centered career coaching conversations, right? If we are going to be all that God, because here's the other part of this. Man, I ain't want to go here, but we got to go here. I think that this conversation is the reason why some people, it's the reason why God has not allowed some people to get promoted.
Mama.
I believe that this conversation right here is the reason why God has not allowed some people to have their prayers answered, because they refuse to actually look at themselves. God's provided many opportunities for you to say, see, look in the mirror. See, here's where your heart is. See, here's where your character is. You're short-tempered. You talk fast. You don't even ask the right questions. You're sarcastic all the time. People don't want to be around you. Like, people are okay with inviting you to be the clown, but not to be the leader. That's a problem. That's the problem. Like, they're okay with you being the clown for the floor or the clown for this section of cubicles, because they know you're going to cut up and you loud and all of that. But you need to be able to switch. Like, in our culture today, most people are dressed casual. But I sometimes will intentionally put a suit on and dress up just to switch it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm nodding my head because, again, I teach professional etiquette courses, and whenever I train it, there's always somebody, and I give the heads up that I'm going to say something that might make you feel uncomfortable when you're in here. But almost inevitably, every time I train that class, they say to me, well, Jessica, I mean, I don't need to really wear that, do I? Do I really need to wear that? Well, let me tell you, my job is a little bit different. Nobody's job is different. Even if you work at a fast food place, there's a uniform. There's a look for how you come to the space. And so I know there's a lot more casual attire because of the pandemic. People are just wearing, the business mullet where you got the business up top and comfy down the bottom. I get it.
What did you call that? The business mullet?
The business mullet, where it's business up top and it's comfy down at the bottom.
I have not heard that before. We just got a brand new. Did you come up with that, or is that a thing?
I did.
Okay. I've never heard that before. A business mullet. Come on, somebody. That's hilarious.
Absolutely. And so that's something that we can become comfortable with, but even how we approach people or address people as well. You know, when we call people by their first names versus their last names, I think the culture has shifted towards that. I think we even talked about culturally in our churches that there's always a brother or sister on a handle because it reminds you of who you're communicating with. Yeah. So I think the same thing. If you are dressed a certain way, it reminds you of where you are. So I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to wear this because it wouldn't be appropriate for the gym. I want to make sure I'm reminded of where I am and its functionality. So, but when I come into the building or come into a courtroom or go wherever you're going, go into your brick and mortar store, you want to set the tone mentally as well as physically for yourself by what you put on. But I'm definitely a fan of dressing up every now and again. And I have a couple of standards that some people think, oh, Jessica, really? But I think that that's important. And so it's because I was coached up. It's because someone said, get rid of all these things. I got rid of it, got my feelings hurt. Listen, I'll be the first person to tell you, it can be uncomfortable where someone says, that's not for you. Don't do that again. It doesn't represent who you are becoming or who I'm investing in. And then I had the opportunity for people to pour into me, like you were talking about my career executive board, to say, now do this. Yeah. But some people are not going to want to coach you. Like, that's why you got to do it in order, because some people will see the hot mess that you were before you cleaned it up and cleared it out, and they're not going to want to invest in it. Like, why would I do that? You want me to do what now? So you've got to follow those steps so that they are willing to invest in you.
Yeah. Our time is gone. We got 5 more minutes, but what else is powerful about this? Man, this time flies by. What else is powerful about this, Jessica, is this, and we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this on previous callings and careers. But there is also, because we recognize that we have a diverse audience that watches us. So we've got people from all races that watch us. But in this particular point right here about coaching it up, dress, attire, credibility, your career credit score, there's a cultural component to this for people of color that has to be acknowledged, right? That other cultures may be able to get away with wearing Crocs to the office, but depending upon how you want to be seen, you may not be able to have that opportunity. You may not be able to have that flexibility and be seen in a credible way. Now, you can do it. Anybody saying you can't do it, go ahead, do your thing, right? You can go ahead, wear your yoga pants, and all the other stuff, whatever you do, right? But you got to make a decision in advance. What do I want said? What's my credit score? And there are cultural dynamics that are at play with the answers that you determine or where you arrive at. Talk about that briefly, Jessica, and then we'll get ready to land.
I think I'm grateful that you shared it in this space, because unfortunately isms are present. There's racism, sexism, ageism, there's all these isms. And so because there's all these things to contend with, you've got to ask yourself, do I want to contend with my personal style in that ism? Or do I want to show up with my my intellect, my skills and capabilities, and then combat the ism? So it's like you're almost pushing yourself further back, another battle you have to play. I just had this conversation with my mother about this, about how people who are not people of color can get away with certain outfits in the workspace. Now, if you are person, it's a reality. It's an unwritten rule. You're not going to see it in any SOP. It's not going to be written on any document from a company that's going to say, well, this person can do this because they don't have melanin. You can't because you do. But it is an undercurrent. And this goes to that coach it up. So already you're getting that coach it up piece from us, because this is something that no one is going to tell you unless they're willing to invest in you. So if they're sharing it with you, it's because they're willing to invest in you and they're trying to support you in your career goals.
Yeah, that's so good. We could stay here for another hour, break down some more, but this time flies by so fast. So you all are listening to what is known as Callings and Careers. It's a bi-monthly conversation that Jessica, Canty, and I have, and our commitment is to help you discover and discern your calling and then level up in your career. You don't have to turn your faith off in order to be a flourishing, faithful follower of Christ every single day in your 9 to 5 and whatever other areas that you're in. Let me just take a quick moment, Jessica, if you can, just tell everybody where they can find you and how they can connect with you. And then we'll get ready to close out today.
Awesome. I love meeting new people, meeting new friends. I especially love helping melanin millennial moms who want high achieving careers. So you can check me out at jessicacanty.com. I'm on all the social media platforms at Jessica Canty. You can even send me an email if you want to. So anytime you see jessicacanty.com, drop me a note. I'd love to chat with you.
Fantastic. And of course, Christopher J. Harris, and you can find me there at christopherjharris.com or our platform, diversechurchjobs.com, where we help people of color in ministry find amazing career opportunities. And so again, welcome to Callings and Careers, a bi-monthly coaching conversation that's Christ-centered, unapologetically. We're committed to helping you thrive and flourish and grow in every single area of your life. Our commitment is this, and this is what we'll leave you with today. We want you to discover your calling and develop in your career. Have an amazing day, everybody. Y'all share and spread the word. Let everybody know Callings and Careers is on the map. Have a good day, everybody. Peace.